I thought my family were all hoping I would die due to my cancer so they could get my will ASAP. What my nephew said made me rethink everything. Cancer may as well have just taken me. I was diagnosed with it about 6 months ago. As soon as I announced, I felt off about my family's reaction. The tears seemed crocodile, the writing of my will seemed to be a big talking point, and each family member had a lot to say about how they thought it should be divided. It felt like they were cheering for me to die, but in a very subtle way. However, I kept pushing this into the back of my mind as I figured there was no way my own family only cared about my will and what they would inherit. I put up with a lot of stuff over the past 6 months, but surprisingly my health was not getting much worse. I went to get checked out again and it turns out I was misdiagnosed. The cancer was not malignant, it was benign. When the doctor broke this news to me, as well as the news that it seems like my body is fighting this cancer very well, I was the happiest man alive. I was excited to tell my family. I had pushed my negative thoughts away. However, when I told them, it seemed like my mom and my sister especially weren't at all glad about me recovering. I didn't make a fuss about it, but I told my girlfriend about my observation. She told me not to worry and that they were probably still in shock. No way could do that. Well, we were invited to my mom's house last Sunday for dinner. At dinner, my 12-year-old nephew seemed angry. My sister asked him what was wrong and he blurted out that he was thinking he was going to be rich soon because I was meant to die. It felt like a gut punch hearing. All my suspicions were confirmed. I'm child-free so I don't really know when people start being a-holes, but a 12-year-old focused on a family member dying because he gets to inherit some money seems out of this world to me. I laughed in shock and looked at my family for reassurance. They pretended that they didn't hear him. Only my girlfriend watched me in horror. I asked my nephew why he would think he would get rich when I have my girlfriend who I have been with for 13 years. He was confused. I saw my sister turn around at that announcement. My girlfriend spent the rest of the evening holding my hand and caressing it. My mom called the day after and she was dancing around the subject and trying to find out more information about what the will was supposed to be. I never discussed my will in detail, even when they tried to pry out information when I originally got diagnosed. I'm changing my will, excluding my nephews who I thought I would leave some for. It's going to charity instead. Update: I spent all night thinking about the situation, and what I realized throughout it all was that my girlfriend deserved the world. I needed to marry her. Last night I was watching a TV show with her sleeping beside me. She woke up around 3 a.m. and smiled at me. God, I love her beautiful face. I just blurted out, "Will you marry me?" I had no ring and did not get on one knee. It was a spur of the moment decision that my heart knew was correct. She smiled with the biggest grin ever and said yes. Then snuggled up in my arms. I was in heaven in that moment, the thoughts of my waste of oxygen family members disappearing. In the morning my girlfriend asked me, "Did you propose yesterday?" With the biggest smile on her face, I said yes. She said finally with a twinkle in her eye and then she kissed me. My girlfriend shared that we're engaged on her social media. Then, reality hit again. My narcissistic mom called me 2 hours later to ask if it was a joke. She asked why we got engaged now and I didn't hold back. I told her that for the past 10 years I've been treated as a cash cow for my sister and her family. Always expected to pay for everything. I was expected to pay for only the most expensive things. I would buy Christmas, birthday and graduation presents from everyone, for everyone. I was expected to buy presents for my sister to give to her nephew and have her pretend that she bought them. My sister even insinuated that her oldest son is expecting a Porsche when he turns 16. And instead of acknowledging my generosity for the past decade they were disappointed that I didn't die. My mom started crying at this, swearing that it was all in my head and what I was saying was not real. They're all so grateful and happy that I'm fine but that I shouldn't forget that they're my real family, and that my will should go to them. My girlfriend is still young and she could move on with her life should the worst happen. But they'll always be my family. Mom said that my girlfriend also has a career of her own and is childless so she isn't in need. She literally called me to give out about my will right after hearing I was engaged. No congratulations, no nothing, just Mr. Krabs on the other end of the phone. I told my mom as such and that my girlfriend has always been my family and now she's becoming my family on paper too. My mom started crying again and asked me if I'm planning to disinherit my nephews now because of an immature comment made by a child. I told her that she should wait for me to die to find out, shouldn't she? She said there's no point talking to me when I'm like this. She begged me not to do anything stupid and wished me good night. Now what's left is to find my girlfriend, no, my fiancée, an engagement ring worthy of her. She's very simple and minimalistic. She wants something small and simple. Her only request is that I chose it. Edit: she loves the engagement ring I picked. Edit 2: I have gone no contact with my family and my now wife and I got married. The wedding was amazing.
My boyfriend keeps getting into fistfights with the chef at Waffle House on purpose. This is some Family Guy stuff. So my boyfriend and I have been together for 3 years. Due to both of our degrees and attending the same college, we make a fairly nice combined income. Our income is relevant because we could afford to eat somewhere nice when we're out and about, but he always wants breakfast food. When he was a child his dad couldn't stand eating breakfast-type food in the afternoon or evenings, so his mom would make him waffles, pancakes, eggs and bacon in the evening whenever his dad was busy or out of town. It's a wonderful and safe memory for him. My boyfriend is an incredibly nice and caring person. He's emotionally tuned into everyone and recognizes arising issues a long time before they occur. He loves animals, and is kind and gentle with every bug, bird and pet that he comes across. He's almost always willing to turn the other cheek in social situations where somebody tries to insult him or get aggressive towards him, and usually winds up diffusing the situation and having a productive discussion about whatever the issue was. Except at Waffle House. Anytime we're out, he wants to go to the same goddamn Waffle House and get breakfast food. I'm not a big eater, so I used to not really care. I would just drink coffee and read my book while he enjoyed his food. But that became impossible once he and this one cook started chirping at each other every time we went there. My boyfriend complained about his eggs one time, because he likes them a little runny and they were served hard. The cook responded by giving him scrambled eggs. When he brought it up again, the cook served him 2 hard-boiled eggs. I think it was just part of the cook's shtick, and it was kind of funny, but my boyfriend wasn't able to laugh it off. When we left, he was in kind of a bad mood, but we didn't really talk about it. The next week we were out getting some shopping done, and he wanted to go to Waffle House again. I suggested that we try out a different place, or at least a different Waffle House location, but he only wanted the same Waffle House. We went in and sat down, and once again the same cook served his eggs wrong. My boyfriend sort of snapped at him that he wasn't interested in messing around, and just wanted the correct eggs. The cook then served him a piece of toast with a hole cut out in the middle with a fried egg in it. My boyfriend got really mad and threw the egg toast at the cook, which made the cook come around from behind the bar and throw it back at him. They ended up fighting until my boyfriend was like, "This is crap," and walked out. Nobody got hurt, but the few other people in there were watching and laughing a bit. This is the crazy part: my boyfriend keeps going back and ordering eggs and getting into fistfights with the same cook. It's almost a ritual at this point. My boyfriend orders runny eggs, the cook serves him some other version of eggs, and then they beat the crap out of each other. I quit going with him after the second fight, but he kept going by himself. They physically fought like 6 or 7 times over this. I've tried to talk to him about it a few times, but he keeps saying it's a matter of principle. I've told him to talk to the manager or something like that, but he just waves me off. Apparently that cook hasn't yet made him the correct runny eggs, but it's like he spends the week learning new ways of preparing eggs to tick my boyfriend off. The thing is, we're getting married this summer. He's accepted a job in a new city and it'll be easy for me to find work after the wedding, so we'll be moving away from his sworn enemy Waffle House guy. My fiancé wants me to get rid of my backup plan. I have always had a backup plan. My backup plan includes a place to live, money for general expenses, and a rainy day fund. It's more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it. I like having it, and I have explained to previous partners that I have one and I let them decide if they're okay with it. My fiancé knew this before he started dating me exclusively. He knew that if we ever got married, I would require a prenuptial agreement and a request that this backup plan stays intact. A couple days ago, he told me he wasn't okay with this plan any longer. I don't think that's fair. He comes from a wealthy family and the prenuptial agreement protects him, and I should have something that protects me. I'm actually finding myself really angry about this because I was an open book about this every step of the way, and now I feel like he's changed his mind. He says that having this plan makes it seem like I will leave him while I think it protects me. I'm annoyed because it's not fair to me to change your mind when you knew my expectations from the very beginning. I love him, but my dad is a divorce lawyer, and from what I've heard and seen, better to protect yourself and not need it than no protection and then have to pick up the pieces. Both of our parents agree that a prenuptial is needed. I'm not getting rid of this plan. To clarify some things about my backup plan, I called it that because I started it at 25, I have had it for about 10 years now. I'm in my mid-30s. It is an emergency savings account, another savings account, and a property I own. I use my main job to pay for my household expenses with my fiancé and also to fill my main savings. I have a trust but also investments as well, but my dad helps me handle those. The emergency savings is only money from additional contract jobs I take on in my profession. The other savings account is only money from rental income, some of which I use to maintain the property and pay my dad back. The property is a multi-family home and I rent out all the units but one. The property was bought by my dad when I was 24 and I have been paying him back the purchase price with no interest for a couple of years now. The property is worth a great amount now, but my dad would only accept what he paid for it from me. He took out a loan for me because he wanted me to be set up financially. In paying him back, even though he already paid the loan off a long time ago. There's no way I would be able to buy that property now, or even 5 years ago, since house prices have skyrocketed where I live, and am grateful that my dad did that for me. I will finally pay off the loan in about 8 months and before I get married. It's taken me so long to pay my dad back because he insisted that I prioritize setting myself up financially rather than paying him back. The property is also a 15 minutes walk to the nearest hospital and close to the city center, so it is easy to rent out to medical students. I keep one unit open because of events. I make a killing when there are events or when big artists tour, and 2 examples are the recent Beyoncé and Taylor Swift tours where I made a lot on the days they were in my city. If there are no events where I think I can make a good amount, I rent it out to travel nurses in 3 to 4 month periods once or twice a year, but realistically, there could be a couple weeks or 2 to 3 continuous months during the year where it sits empty. Overall though, I make a substantial amount from this property. I can't take credit for this strategy because my dad is the one who helped me set up the apartments and manage it. My partner and I come from vastly different economic backgrounds. His family has generational wealth and he can't remember a time they didn't. I grew up firmly middle class, until my parents' divorce, and then it was a struggle for a while. His home life was relatively stable with a mom and dad. On the other hand, my dad tried his best, but my birth mom made my childhood tumultuous both emotionally and mentally. The difference with how we think about money became very noticeable when we were planning our wedding. We had been discussing what type of flowers we would like, and then I started talking about the budget and stated that I thought 30-40K was good overall to pay for a wedding and in an amount where we could easily afford it. He thought I meant 30-40K for flowers, and he and his parents didn't budget the amount and just said okay. I clarified what I meant, and I would never ever pay that amount for just flowers. When it comes to the plan, my fiancé knew about it as soon as we were exclusive. I don't agree with people saying I shouldn't have told him. To protect my assets in the prenuptial agreement, I had to. I also told him because I felt he deserved to know. As we got more serious, especially with marriage, I told him more after talking to my dad and finding out what was okay to say so that he understood the extent of the plan. The reason I kept saying the backup plan was complicated was due to the prenup my dad came up with. It is very long and protects me very well, and my fiancé was, in his view, not prepared for the extent of it. My dad and I went to this extent due to what he had seen people do in divorces, but also mainly due to his divorce that affected us both. It didn't help that I further joked that my dad tried to cover for any loopholes, including asking his associates to look over the document and revising it if one was found. What I saw as protection, my fiancé saw as me having an out since my dad went to such an extent. The short part of it is that my fiancé was insecure about it. He grew up with a dad as the breadwinner, and he was raised with this idea that he should be a provider, and my plan rattled him because it showed him that financially I didn't really need him. He told me he didn't realize how much of himself he had tied into this provider role and felt extremely insecure because he didn't know what he now brought to the relationship. When he found out about the sometimes empty unit, he felt more uneasy because he, even though I have and will always have a job, wanted and planned to take care of me. His idea of scrapping both prenups was his way of trying to say that he trusted me and that I should trust him. If he was willing to go without a prenup knowing I could get a substantial amount of his assets, then it would show me that he would never try to hurt me financially or otherwise. I told him I saw it at the time as extremely manipulative due to him doing it before we met with the lawyers, and he apologized because he honestly just panicked. There is not anything that would make me compromise about this. I told him he has a decision to make because I'm not changing my mind.
My girlfriend posted a beach picture to her Instagram. So I'm breaking up with her. I asked my current girlfriend, or maybe ex-girlfriend, to be in a relationship with me during the pandemic. She gratefully accepted, which is no surprise because I am incredibly handsome and fit. I never have had any problems in the dating market. One thing is that my girlfriend always would wear baggy clothes on Zoom and would generally cover up her body. I asked her why she would do that, and she said it just made her feel comfortable. This raised some suspicion in me, and eventually she came out and told me that she was quite chubby. Now I usually don't go for fat girls, especially whales that are over 200 pounds, but I really like my girlfriend's personality. So instead of breaking up with her, I helped her with her diet and training. I got her onto a lot more healthy habits, and this became the main point of most of our conversations. Finally, after around a year of online dating, the lockdown was lifted. We decided to meet up with each other. We decided that for our first day we would do a gym date. I was the one that suggested the idea because of how often girls check me out in the gym, and I wanted to show off. But for some reason the tables were turned, all the guys were flirting with her and were all looking at her. I mean, to be honest, even I was surprised when I first saw her. She looked so much better in person. But one thing that caught my attention is that she would respond to the guys that were flirting with her. She even started a conversation with one of them. I was a bit shocked by this because I was the one that got her into this stuff, and as soon as she got a hot body, she was just flirting with everyone. I was pretty annoyed at what was happening, and even worse was that my workout felt terrible because I had to constantly be checking on my girlfriend to make sure I could protect her from talking to other guys. I just grabbed her hand and told her that we were leaving. She said that she still had a couple of sets left, but I made an excuse for us to go. We ended up going to Chipotle, and eventually, things calmed down. I was still a bit mad at her behavior in the gym when she talked to other guys, but I decided to let it slide this time. We went on a couple more dates out to restaurants, and I honestly started falling in love more with her in person, but that's not to say there still weren't incidents where I had to step in. One time, we were supposed to meet at the place where I parked my car, and on the way I saw her talking to a random guy. I had to intervene. She told me that it was just a high school friend that was complimenting her on her body transformation because she had lost a lot of weight since high school. After that incident, I made it clear to her that I didn't want to see her talking to other guys at all. She told me I was being jealous and overprotective, and that my mentality was really toxic and outdated. I told her she was being ridiculous. This ended up causing our first fight in the whole relationship, and we just decided to go no contact with each other until one of us admitted the other was wrong. We went 3 days without talking, and I 100% wasn't going to cave in. I knew that she was flirting with other guys and that I was right. That day though, our mutual friend that introduced us invited both of us to a nearby beach to celebrate his 25th birthday. I wasn't sure how to tell him that me and my girlfriend weren't speaking with each other, so instead I just texted her saying that we should at least act normal for our friend's party, and she agreed that our relationship shouldn't come between our friends. When we got to the beach, I could immediately feel tension between us, and definitely not the romantic type. But I couldn't believe what she was going to do next. I wish I could take back the time and choose to have never helped her in the first place after what she did. We all went to the changing rooms, and when everyone came out, my girlfriend was wearing a two-piece bathing suit. It was more than revealing for her. I mean, she was basically wearing a thong. I tried not to think about it too much, but I saw how all the guys were looking at her and it made me super angry and uncomfortable. It's so clear that she did it on purpose just to get their attention, and it definitely worked because after the group photo, my girlfriend asked if one of the guys could take a solo photo of her. Obviously she was just trying to be promiscuous again, but what really broke me was how she was posing in the photo. She decided for some reason that this would be the perfect time to show off her SS and small waist. I wasn't planning on confronting her at the party, but a couple minutes later when I saw those photos uploaded on her Instagram I couldn't hold back and all HLL broke loose. In front of all of our friends, I started screaming at her about how just because we weren't talking now didn't mean she gets to act like a hoe. She was obviously embarrassed by my remark and she told me after she saw her old high school guy friend she was inspired to show all of her old classmates her body progress, and that she was ashamed of the fact that I couldn't just be proud for her. I told her that I was planning on proposing to her, and that one day if she wanted to be a mother then this thought behavior had to stop. Our friend group started getting involved when my girlfriend left crying, and all my friends are calling me an a-hole for what I did. Later that day, I told my girlfriend that she could either take the post down or we were over. I was shocked at her response. Am I the a-hole for being upset that my sister asked us to find a different place to stay for Christmas? This Christmas visit has been planned for over 9 months, we confirmed plans with her several weeks ago, and she's been consistently canceling on me with no explanation for months now. Basically, my partner and I are going to my hometown for Christmas with our 2 dogs. For as long as we've planned on coming home, my sister has been insistent that we stay with her, claiming it's so stupid to pay for hotels when you can just stay with me. One of our dogs is being rehabilitated for behavioral issues. While aggression is something we are working on, this dog has never bitten anyone. We tried to find boarding for the dog for our trip so we'd only be bringing our other dog who is not in the process of being rehabbed, but it was not possible for the holidays. I reached out to my sister to let her know what was going on, and that we were thinking about finding a different place to stay for at least part of the trip to make sure we weren't overcrowding her and her husband, but she assured me that we should just stay with her. I did end up booking a place for the second part of our trip just to give everyone more flexibility, but I thanked my sister endlessly and let her know how much she was helping us out by allowing us to stay. I also assured her that our dog will be in a crate under sedation for the duration of our time in her home, and would only be coming out for walks and play on a leash outside, and she said that was pretty fine and we could even consider having the dog out more often than that. We were only supposed to be staying with them for 2 days. Flash forward to a few days ago, just 4 days before we were supposed to leave, she asked us not to stay with them, listing the dog as the reason. Had she said this when I told her we had to bring the dog and that I was thinking of adjusting our trip dates so we could afford a nice place to stay if she wasn't comfortable having the dog in her home, I would have no issues with it. But she waited until she'd be really putting my partner and I out to say something. Because I talked extensively with her, we only booked our other place for specific days and they can't extend our reservation. This leaves us with 2 options, miss my family Christmas or pay for 2 nights in a hotel with dogs with holiday rates and all. I told my sister that all of this was very upsetting and that I would understand if we had talked about her concerns with the dog, but she made me feel like everything was fine and then just pulled the rug out from underneath me. Anyways, now she's saying that I'm out of line for being upset and I'm just wondering. Would any of y'all be happy with your sibling if they canceled plans that you've had for almost a year that they also heavily reassured you would work out before you spent a bunch of money to make it happen? Am I the a-hole for being upset about this?
Am I the a-hole for not caring if my husband cheated on me? I have a very strong opinion that if my significant other wants to cheat, I won't stop them. If they need to be stopped, they're not worth my love. I deeply believe I deserve someone who 100% willingly wants to be with me and wouldn't fall for temptation. Let's say it falls under my responsibility to try and stop them if I knew they're going to cheat, but what about if I didn't know? I'm married. We have been together for 4 years and married for 6 months. We just moved to a new apartment and little by little we have been renovating it. We're both crafty and we want to create our dream home. We became friends with our neighbors. Also a couple. The woman is very beautiful and bubbly and I got along very well with her. She said she envied us renovating since her husband doesn't really like these things and refuses to give her money to start her own projects. She's a stay-at-home mom. I don't know about her situation with her husband, but the closer we got to them, the more I sense that he's very careful with money. I get what she means, although I don't think he is financially abusive. Both my husband and I work. My husband works a lot from home. I have noticed that my neighbor is getting more friendly with my husband, instead of how it started as a friendship with me. She is very flirty and she seems to have more and more in common with my husband, especially the things I don't really like hiking, but even the smallest things like food or sweets. She has so much in common with him, as she has put it many times. Since she's a stay-at-home mom, she started making my husband his favorite food and my husband has said on many occasions how nice it is that she cooks. Twice I came home and she's in there with my husband, helping him with the renovations or has just brought him lunch. My husband doesn't seem bothered at all, so it makes me think nothing is happening between them, yet. I was telling this to my mom and she got so angry at my indifference. She said that I should ban my neighbor from being around my husband and tell him not to talk to her again. I told her that I wanted a husband who doesn't want to cheat. There are 4 billion women out there and I can't stop him from seeing all of them. He's the only one who can decide if his marriage is worth it. My mom called me deranged and she is very upset with me. I don't know what to do. I have made my opinion clear to my husband that I didn't appreciate our neighbor hanging around with him and I even started to cook more at home. Other than that, I don't plan on having a contest with women to win my husband. I always believe if they can take him, they can keep him. My heart is full of love for him and I can't even imagine myself cheating on him even if I was in a room full of handsome men. I just want the same in return. He hasn't done anything yet, but he has texted with her a few times. Nothing flirty, but they have texted. I hate it, but I don't know. My mom said I'm enabling this just to see if he cheats and then discard him, but all I wish is that he chooses me. Update 1. To see what would happen, I accidentally on purpose left my gym bag at home, asked my manager if I could have a couple of hours break around lunch, and sure enough, my neighbor was in my kitchen eating lunch with my husband. My husband looked nervous and guilty and said, "Yeah, we're having lunch here." They had the leftovers from yesterday's dinner and they'd ordered a pizza because we didn't have enough leftovers for two. So she didn't even make him lunch this time. I just said that I was there to bring my gym bag and left. Now I'm sitting in my car shaking. My stomach and heart are aching. He has called 3 times, but I just couldn't answer. He texted me this: "I know you don't like it when she's here, but you have nothing to worry about. I love you." Now I'm trying to calm my nerves before driving back to work. He knows that I don't like it when she's there, and yet the few times I've left work early she's been there, which means she's probably always there when he's working from home. Which means even if he knows I hate it, he still does it. We have been married for 6 months. I know the first year is always hard, but I don't know. We are in our 30s and we don't have children yet. We only own our apartment together. Maybe this wasn't meant to be. Maybe it's better to call it a day now before there's more to lose. My mom will probably call me deranged again if I tell her how I'm feeling. But I'm very, very turned off by this. She can keep him. I have just sent him this text: "I love you, but I can't do this. I don't trust you with my heart anymore. I don't think we're compatible because our definition of love, respect, boundaries, and friendship is obviously very different. We probably need to call it a day before we're even more entangled and it gets more complicated. I need space to think. Please respect that, and I will talk to you when I'm ready to discuss our future." He just called 3 times more than texted. Please don't do this to us. I love you. You're the love of my life. Please don't throw everything away in a moment of anger. Be angry with me, but come home and be angry. Take it out on me. Fight me. Hit me. If you only knew how much I love you and how nobody else in this world matters to me. Come home. I didn't answer because I don't know what to say. I'm going to bed. I just want to cry. I don't want him to text or call. Update 2. It's Sunday morning and I'm back home. My husband is staying with his parents. Yesterday he showed up at my sister's. Puppy-eyed and all, with takeouts from my favorite restaurant, flowers, chocolate and ice cream. He started apologizing and saying that he loved me and that he would never hurt me. I asked him to start being honest with me, if he had feelings for her and if they've done something. He swore nothing happened and that he doesn't have feelings towards her. I told him that he wasn't honest because why would he let her in my home, knowing how much it would hurt me? If he had no feelings for her, why risk your marriage? He couldn't answer that more than that he didn't think it was bad since he was secure in his feelings and in our marriage. He then admitted that he liked the attention. So he knew before she admitted it that she liked him? He gave me his phone and all his texts and told me to see how he never once flirted or made any advances. I don't know. I was very sad reading and hearing all this. I told him that they disrespected me. Her last text to him is that she loved him and she would make him happier than I ever could. There were also messages with mean things about me to him, and instead of confronting her he ignored her or laughed it off. When I asked him about it he apologized and said she was obviously jealous, so I didn't want to engage. I told him that I wanted separation because I didn't trust him anymore. He begged me not to. Then he said that I should at least come back to my home and he would live with his parents. He also asked if I could promise him not to start divorce yet and just be separated for a while so we could go to couples counseling. He said that he messed up very badly and wants me to give him time to make it right again and not just divorce him yet. I moved back home this morning and he was here. We had breakfast and he left for his parents. I didn't want him to kiss me. He will be coming home when he needs to work in the office and probably if we start therapy. On these days I can be at my sister's. She was more than happy to help. Now I don't want to see him for a while.
I just found out that my fiancé has been cheating on me. I have been with my fiancé for 12 years and have 2 wonderful young kids together. I thought we were in a happy and loving relationship. I started noticing something very wrong in my relationship 3 months ago. He started bringing up the idea of open relationships every day for 2 weeks and his opinion went from "I don't get it" to "I can understand why people would want them." This started showing me some red flags. At the same time as these conversations started, he reconnected with a woman he went to primary school with and they started talking all day every day. It got to the point that if she messaged, he would ignore my existence completely. My intuition told me something was wrong, so I checked his phone and saw some very obviously bad messages on his Snapchat to this woman. I confronted him about it and he denied it, claiming the messages were innocent and taken out of context. At the time I felt like I believed him. I felt, for the first time in 12 years, unsafe in my relationship. I started having daily panic attacks about him and this woman every day for almost 2 months. My anxiety got to a point where he said he needed to spend some time away from me to feel like an individual. He said he was going to spend the whole day with one of his male friends and then the next day go and stay the night at another male friend's house. A couple weeks later I found from one of his friends and noticing holes in his story, that he did not to go anyone's house but instead went to an Airbnb and hung out with the woman he has been messaging. It was only then that he changed his story and told me he did see her for a few hours and then went to stay in an Airbnb to be by himself for one night. Again, I believed him. I have just discovered through some messages that he never went to see any of his friends. He spent the whole day with her and then the next day checked into the hotel with her. They had sex. They have been messaging every day and they have said they have strong feelings for each other and have made plans to be together in the future. My fiancé doesn't know that I know the truth. I'm not sure what I am meant to do next or how to move forward now. What do I do to confront him about this? Should I forgive him? Should I try to make it work for our kids?